There's trouble brewing in the galaxy far, far away. The latest season of The Mandalorian has got everyone talking, but not necessarily for the right reasons. Let's explore what went wrong. The Mandalorian suffers from a lot of unnecessary filler, which I guess is added to stretch out the runtime. This ranges from extended wide-angle walking shots to scenes that don't progress the plot at all. For example, in episode 2, where the crazy droid lady is arguing with multiple droids, and then Jawas, for a whole 2 minutes, which goes nowhere and has no relevance to the overall plot, nor does it really add any character development. It's inefficient writing and wastes the viewer's time. This season also has entire filler episodes too, like episode 3, that focuses on unimportant characters and Easter eggs. The plot in this episode revolves around cloning technology, which serves mainly to connect the show to the Rise of Skywalker and the final episode of season 3. It doesn't need a whole episode to do this. It distracts from the central story of Din Djarin and Grogu, which is what most viewers want to see. Sadly, it seems like Disney has forgotten this. The season has had massive pacing issues, and after watching the efficient screenplay in Andor, the inconsistencies in The Mandalorian hurt the viewing experience. The sporadic pace has made it hit or miss whether we, as a viewer, will get a worthwhile episode. What is more, Din accomplishes his main goal by the end of episode 2, when he bathes in the water of Mandalore and is therefore redeemed. The show then becomes about Bo-Katan and her quest to retake Mandalore. Din becomes a side character in his own show. I feel Disney have missed another trick here. They could have used Mando to introduce Bo, if you hadn't already watched the Clone Wars, and then launched a Bo-Katan show to deal with her retaking Mandalore, allowing Season 3 to actually focus on the main protagonist, who viewers tune in to see. The main villain in Season 3 is another issue that bothers me. Giancarlo Esposito's portrayal of Moff Gideon is fantastic. His voice is iconic, but he has very little screen time until the last episode of the season. It feels like the show forgot about him and thus squandered his talent, as his appearance lacks build-up, which only emphasises the meandering plot of Season 3 more. Additionally, his costume is very forgettable, and he ends up looking like a budget Darth Vader, the Rick Moranis version.
I can't breathe in this thing!
Mando feels weak in Season 3. He has to be saved roughly 6 times by other characters. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Din as a character, and I think Pedro Pascal does a good job of portraying him, but in Season 3 it seems like every time he's in trouble, someone else comes to his rescue. In episode 2, for instance, The Mines of Mandalore, Din is saved by Bo-Katan not once, but twice. First from the cyborg hobo, and then again when he almost drowns in the sacred waters. Now, I understand that Bo is a skilled warrior and a valuable ally, but it's a little frustrating to see Din constantly relying on her to get out of trouble. And then there's the last episode where Grogu comes to Din's rescue multiple times during the fight with Moff Gideon. Don't get me wrong, seeing Grogu use the Force to take down the Praetorian Guard is cool, but it gets slightly comical and not in a good way. It also takes away from Din's own ability as a warrior. I think part of the problem is that the show is trying to balance too many characters and storylines, and this brings me on to the lack of character development for Mando. Throughout the season it became clear that the show doesn't know where it's going or what it wants to do with its main character. In the first 2 seasons, Mando had a clear goal of returning Grogu to his kind, which drove his journey across the galaxy. However, this goal was quickly accomplished at the end of Season 2, and the show, I feel, has struggled to find a new direction. And now on to the cameos for the season, which were just awful. Except for Ahmed Best's appearance as Jedi Kelleran Beck, he obviously previously played the now infamous Jar Jar Binks. This was short, sharp, but added explanation to the plot. And then there is Jack Black and Lizzo.
Mother of God.
Their cameos were childlike and one-dimensional. Jack Black basically played himself, and I would have preferred to see him take on a more serious role. Lizzo's performance was stilted, and the whole episode didn't progress either the story or the season along in any meaningful way. Compare their cameos to Bill Burr's in this previous season. His character is given some fantastic subtle backstory that ends up showing actual impact on the narrative as a whole. Mayfield went from a mercenary working against Mando to working with him and exploring his past trauma during Operation Cinder, an imperial compliance campaign that glasses a whole planet and reminds the audience of how evil the Empire is. Mayfield manages to add humour, but at the same time bring a very serious note. You can just see the torment in this scene.
To the Empire.
That 3 seconds had more emotion than the entire episode involving Jack Black and Lizzo. They just came across as an awkward parody sketch in comparison. Lastly, the Darksaber setup was a complete letdown. We saw Din struggle to use it throughout series 1 and 2, and then he just hands it over. It could have been a great way to, I don't know, set up a duel between Bo and Mando, or at least create some tension. Season 2 set up the expectation that Bo-Katan would need to win the Darksaber in combat to become the rightful ruler of Mandalore. Or we could have explored him mastering the saber. His journey to obtain the saber in Season 1 and his attempts to master it in Season 2 felt pointless, and then it was just destroyed at the end of Season 3 anyways. Undoubtedly, this season of The Mandalorian was the weakest by far.
Look how they massacred my boy.
It suffered from the inclusion of too many poorly developed plot threads lacking an overarching goal. This left many viewers, including myself, increasingly dissatisfied and caused a drastic decrease in the viewership as the season progressed. These issues pose a greater threat to Din and Grogu than Moff Gideon ever did and could have been easily avoided. Despite this, I believe it is possible for the show to recover and produce a great season 4. However, it is crucial that Disney avoids repeating the lackluster structure of season 3. Mando needs a clear purpose that positions him as the main protagonist of the show and allows him to grow as a character. The episodes need to be tighter and the filler content needs to be trimmed down drastically. While I am optimistic that these changes can be made, I am slightly concerned given Disney's past form. Only time will tell, I guess. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. And if you have made it this far, perhaps think about giving me a like and a subscribe. I just started out on my YouTube adventure and I really want to make the best entertainment community possible, and I need your help for that. And that's a wrap, folks. Time for you to go your merry way and for me to recharge the hyperdrive.